This is actually a graph that comes from a guy named Astro Teller. Astro Teller is the former head of Google X, which is really the research and development department of Google. And he did this graph quite a while ago, and he said that the rate of change, little lines are rate of change, the rate of change that's happening around us has been happening at an exponential rate. The rate of change has been happening at an exponential rate. Has anybody felt that over this last year? Give me a raise of hands if anybody's felt that over this last year. Has anybody felt that? The rate of change has been happening at an exponential rate, and even the complexity which we are, all the complexity around this is also happening at an exponential rate. Has anybody else felt that? Well, what's interesting about that is that, and this bottom one here is time, is that our ability to adapt to that change as human beings has tended to be more of a linear type of look. Our ability to adapt to that is a little bit more of a line in our work. And I don't know about you, but how many of you have felt in this rate of change happening, have felt like perhaps I'm a little bit over here. The rate of change has happened so much around me, and the complexity at which has happened, I'm not sure if I know how to adapt to that change. Has anybody felt any of the stress of not sure how to adapt to the change around me this last year? Anybody? Raise your hand if you felt that this year. Yeah, I see some hands raised. I'm raising my hand, by the way. So, right, this is a judgment-free Zoom and in-person room, so no worries. If you feel that, that's fine. Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this, and this comes from the work of Dr. Daniel Friedland. He wrote an incredible book on leadership called Leading Well from Within. He's a neuroscientist, and he wrote a book called Leading Well from Within. It's called A Neuroscience and Mindfulness-Based Framework for Conscious Leadership. And what he said...
prayers for our buddy. So I said saying prayers for our buddy.
Yeah, he's also going through some health problems right now too. But what he shared in his book is he shared that when the demands on us are exceeding the resources available to us, it actually does send our brains into spirals of reactivity. And it does create stress and self-doubt. All of you in this room, I'm assuming, are nonprofit leaders. Is that correct? How many of you as leaders this last, over the last 2 years or so have felt some of that stress or some of that self-doubt of your own leadership? Has anybody felt that this year? And I have too. And that's very normal, actually. In fact, Danny did a fascinating study on self-doubt, and it was 99% of the people that he was asking about if they have faced self-doubt over the last year said yes. He actually did this whole study actually at an airport. It was fascinating. And he said 99%, and the one person who said no, they haven't, was basically lying. And that self-doubt is actually a normal thing. Self-doubt is very normal for us. But the question is, and the fundamentals of conscious leadership is, how do we move this space of reactivity into a space of creativity, where the resources exceed the demands available to us, where we send our brains into cycles of creativity. So that's what a lot of this is going to be about today. And so one of the things that we're going to share with you, we're going to get into like high-level ideas and concepts. We're also going to get in some nitty-gritty tactics around your events. But the reason why we're going to have this is especially an interactive experience is because when we tap into the resources that are around us, the resources that are available to us, we start to put our brains out of the reactive mind, which is our brainstem, and into the more creative spaces of our brain, which is where creativity starts to lie. There's a little bit of both this question that you see in your workbook, which is, what is it about your organization that gives you the greatest feeling of fulfillment, joy, and purpose?
Immediately, we all determined that we are people persons. People are important to us, and that turning a good nonprofit vision into a reality it starts our jump in the morning in the day. We're people persons.
But knowing that we're on the same page and we can just build this thing together. We are building the bicycle as we ride it, and the bike's on fire, and we're on fire, the road is on fire, but we're pedaling, and having a partner be able to do that is what truly brings me inspiration and joy and comfort.
A release out of seeing the joy of the constituents that the charity serves, whether it's the kids or the adults, handicapped, whatever it might be. A lot of different causes out there. We all share a similar theme. So I heard a lot of that collaboration and working towards a common goal and being very sensitive to others' awareness.
And one of the main objectives around pre-event strategies, and we already heard a little bit of this, Kurt, I love how you talked about collaboration. Janet, how you shared about how you're doing this with others. One of the most powerful things that we can do to adapt to the space that we're in is to co-create with the very people that we have. Co-create with our teams, co-create with our boards, co-create with even our donors, our own adaptation. And this includes with the very fundraising events that you are doing, is how might we make the shift? Because we need to unlock the heads and the hearts of our people, of our donors, of our team, of our board. Has anybody felt when their heads and hearts are not unlocked? Has anybody felt that struggle and that pain when my board's like just not quite there? Yeah. Oh, I see double hands on my end, Kelly and Vivian. Yeah. Well, how might we unlock the heads and the hearts of our people? And at a high level, what this means is how do we invite the many in with great and better questions? Former CEO of IBM said the power of our questions are what shape our future.
What makes an effective pre-event strategy?
I think first you have to think about why are we having this event. I think a lot of organizations get stuck in just having events because we've always had this event and this is what we always do. And I think with the pandemic that really turned everything upside down. We always have a biannual gala to raise money for financial aid at our school. So we also have to bring parents that are already paying a large ticket price to be at the school to get them to give us more money. And so you have to tell a story about why you're having the event, and you have to think about what's going to bring them to the event. What's going to be different from your event, from anything else, and why are they going to be inspired to give once they get there?
Sure. How do you enroll and energize your team and your board?
I mean, I think you first look at why people are on the board, and you look at who the donors that are coming through. And you also think not necessarily who are my biggest donors, but who are my loyal donors? Who is really time after time making a gift or commenting or telling your story to other people? And then you get those people on board. It's really important who you choose to be your event chairs and your committee chairs. And you want to think really widely about that. You want to think of people that can open doors for donations and for things that you need, but things that can tell the story and they're going to inspire other people.
And I know that I'm speaking more from like a technical, tactical point, but I think it's really important, and we practice this ourselves, is really getting to know your audience and getting to know your attendees and your donors, because those can be three different things. Your audience are the people who are looking at you, right? So then you have your attendees are the people that you can actually pull in and get to your event virtually or in person, and then the people who are actually going to be donating. And the more you get to know them, the more you can create experiences that they want to have, which in return allows them to give back more because they have a great experience.
Sure.
So some of the ways you can do that is just by even just reaching out, either by and a good way to do this is just ask, like, what's the best way to contact you? Do you prefer through email?
I love that question.
Yeah, through text, call, video chat, so you can get the best engagement from them that you can. So a lot of times that we even talk about when we get a client and we're about to do an event, we say, well, what do your donors want? And we always get sort of a deer in the headlights, like, we didn't even think to ask them.
Things that you feel are often overlooked with that strategy.
I think it's like you get right to the dollar goal. And in development, that's our most important thing. We've got to bring in the money, and that's always at the top of the mind. You're always so worried about that. But I think one thing I've learned just working at Children's, working at the zoo, and at Forsyth, it's really about relationships, and it's about people wanting to be a part of something bigger than what they are. So you need to make sure that they feel that they are a part of it, no matter where they are in the scale, whether, even if they just came to a one-time event, if you're in an organization like Children's at the zoo, or you're at Forsyth where their children are enrolled, you're a part of it. And if you're a busy working parent, you're a part of it. If you're a volunteer up there every day, you're a part of it. Because if people feel united around a common common cause, then the money's going to come.
Knowing your audience for you, there's this one particular story you shared with me last week when we discussed. You talked to me about this family in Texas. Do you remember that story?
Yes.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so we had, every year we do an annual fund campaign, and our goal is always 100% participation, and we always make sure our families know it doesn't matter, and this is with any nonprofit, it doesn't matter the size of your donation, whether you're giving $5, $5,000, $10,000. We are so thankful that you're a part of our community. We're thankful that you're giving us a gift that's meaningful to you. And so a couple years ago, we had a family that moved away, and then their last day, they came in and she brought me a gift, and she said, you know, I just want to thank you because you always made us feel like we were an important part of the community. We knew we couldn't give as much as other families, but you always made us feel important. And because I would write notes, you write notes at the bottom of, you know, whatever acknowledgement letter you read, and that just meant so much, because I don't want just the person that gives the most money to feel like the most important person in the room. Everyone is a part of your community. Everyone's important. And if you take that attitude where you're going to express that, it'll bring, you know, joy back to them and to you.
So much of the time as nonprofit leaders, we set ourselves up as if like everything's always supposed to be the best and great. What I've loved about watching Charity Water and Scott Harrison in particular in his leadership style is he has set up a place with his donors in particular. They have a donor community called The Well. And within their donor community, what they've done is they've created a space that allows for Scott to not feel like he has to project all the good things all the time and make sure that everything looks perfect. And so they use language like pilot. We're trying. There's language you can use. In fact, we even said this earlier today at the very beginning of, hey, we're piloting some new things here today between Thrive Impact and Utopia. We're testing and trying some new things that we'll see how they work. When you start to create a learning environment like that, it releases the pressure off of you as the leader, but it also sets the expectations for, hey, if something screws up or there's a fail, quote unquote, then it's actually not quite as detrimental, if you will. And so a lot of this gets into that, you know, I don't necessarily need to have all the right answers. I mean, I need to have excellence as much as I can, but there's also innovation, and an innovation requires you to make mistakes. Go ahead.
My breakout session with Emily, we talked about events that make people feel special, like a small walk that's more intimate, or opening up a historic home that the general public doesn't get to see. And that whole idea of it, an event isn't considered successful unless you have 300 people, and that sometimes it is that small intimate of 50 or fewer that connects you to one another. It gives you a chance to really meet people and then grow your cause. So, you know, kind of, it's the themed kind of event, smaller, more intimate.
Always all about creativity. My favorite events have been about creativity and energy, and where there's an opportunity for people to engage. All of us at our table talked about you know, the fact that you could meet people, engage at your tables, get people involved, so that maybe when they leave, they're going to remember your event, they're going to give to the organization, and then about setting yourself apart with the creativity of the event, so that it's not just the chicken on a plate kind of event.
Some common themes there between you and Stacey, right? It's the quality over the quantity, and then it's the intention behind the event, that the centerpieces are nice and the napkins and the place settings, but people are really coming for the content, but they're staying for the community. The next S is story. And we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's really about telling stories of impact. Finding your Bonnies, right? And when those people are finding you online, and then when you have them in a communal space like this, is how do you enroll their hearts? And study that we found, actually published by Google, is that you're 53 times more likely to show up on our front page if you have videos on your website. 57%, this is published by Forbes, 57% of people that see an impactful nonprofit video go on to make a donation. It didn't cite the amount, but I will tell you that donation amounts were down by 22% in 2021 so far, also published by Forbes. Donation amounts are down, but the number of people donating is up by 110%. We want to show you a couple of different examples too on videos. And so this first video we want to show you is really about how to build anticipation for your events. So this video in particular was for cultural leadership. We produced a virtual gala for them. It was last week. This video was sent out 3 separate times prior to their event. It was sent out as 3 different emails. It was texted out to all their phone numbers using our dear friends at Greater Giving. And it was, let's see, how else was it sent? It was texted to all the board members as well. And what we encouraged the board members to do was, hey, we want you to host a watch party. So send this out to your neighbors, to your friends, to your community, and let's encourage them and invite them to come to your house for a watch party. So they did that. And then last but not least, it was texted to last year's attendees. Say, hey, we want you back. Lachlan, you have that video ready to play? All right.
Hi, I'm Naya.
I'm Wamane.
My name is Jacob.
I'm Zara.
My name is Sela.
We know what it feels like to not fit in.
To feel left out and mistreated.
To be looked at differently. We're here to tell you that through cultural leadership, we're all a part of the human family.
The world is more beautiful when we accept each other.
It's time to stand up for justice.
We're speaking out for justice.
We're taking action through cultural leadership. This year's event is virtual, but we need your support more than ever.
Join us in standing up for justice.
No matter where you're from.
No matter what you believe in.
We stand by you. We support you.
You belong.
You belong.
You belong.
You belong. You belong.
And we belong!
One idea there on how you might look to utilize video. Second idea, and I'm just gonna jump right into it. Our video scene, okay, got it, noted. One idea there, just to continue on the frame of the theme of utilizing video, is not, like I said just a few minutes ago, not every time do you need a highly produced video. You can do something that really humanizes yourself and just use an iPhone, like we did on this next video. And this video is really a look behind the scenes. So we were working with St. Ambrose School. They're a local parish and school here. And they asked, their event director asked if the board chair and the head of school wanted to meet me, but wanted to meet me virtually through an email. And so instead of sending an email, I sent this. Hey, St. Ambrose team, my name is Joey Goone. Today I had the pleasure of connecting with Emily and Guy, and I typically actually record these videos in our production studio and use high quality camera equipment and whatnot, but today I'm doing things a little bit more impromptu. I'm taking you on a tour of our office. This is Chase, he's our mascot. Chase is actually helping me work on your proposal right now. I wanna give you a little tour here. This is the kitchen area as we go back. This is our conference room. This is where all great minds come together and the magic happens. As we go back this way, this is Gina.
Hi.
Gina is our director of marketing.
Can you see me there? Hi.
She's awesome. This is Jordy. Jordy runs our planning team.
Hello. So once you kind of get through all the contract details with Joey, I'm your main point of contact to make this event the most rewarding and easy experience you've ever had.
Yes, Jordy's awesome. All right, going back to the production area, I want to show you, this is the room that we designed given the forced nature of the pandemic and all of our events moving virtual, but we have a couple of different walls behind me and studio production equipment there. We have a black wall, a green wall, and this is where all of our virtual productions over the past 18 months have taken place. And then in this room, this is where a lot of the production magic happens here. So this is Ro and Lachlan. And they're actually working. What are you guys working on back here?
This is for the Animal Foundation.
Animal Foundation, Best in Show. Yeah, go to the first one.
So Lachlan designs the entire program for the events that we produce, which is awesome. It's been a huge value add for a lot of our clients. And then Rose, our director of production. So these two beautiful gentlemen make sure that at your event, everyone can see and hear, which is a very important distinction, I think.
Just
events.
Pretty much. Just a little bit. A little important.
Thanks, guys. It's nice to meet you all and looking forward to working with you on your upcoming gala. Take care. Just a thought on sending little thoughtful videos like that. Remember we talked about earlier too, when you say, hey, video inside, your open rate is much higher via email as well. So thought there. Okay, the third video we're gonna show you, and Lachlan, we're gonna cut this one short. I'll come back for the cue point, but this is for Boys and Girls Club of Dundee. We wanted to show you this one specifically because it attracted Bonnie to raise that $5,000 contribution online. This video was then later shown at the event and raised $290,000 in the paddle raise. So the ROI is certainly there on videos like this. Before we play the video, just some questions, and if you don't get all these, I'm trying to make up some time. So if you don't get all these written down, just come up to me afterwards. But the questions that your impact video, your mission, fund to need, they're all these are used interchangeably. Spotlight, fund to future. You want to answer these questions. Why do we do what we do? Which seems like a very simple but often overlooked piece in videos because people want to focus on programs more than impact, but focus on the why more than the programs. Number 2 is who do we serve and why? Number 3 is what does a donation provide for our recipients? Number 4 is how will supporting us impact the world? And number 5 is how will your donation create impact and leave legacy? So this is what Tucker and I think a couple of other people talked about earlier, was closing the impact loop and making people feel like a part of a larger, they're part of a larger community. Let's roll that one.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SGN, Some Great News, our first broadcast of some great news and some great stories we would love to share with you. I'm Michaela Harrington, the host of SGN, here at the Boys and Girls Club of Dundee Township. While we've had to change and adapt, the kids and families of Dundee need our help now more than ever. We're socially distanced, but that hasn't stopped us from bringing our community together, giving our kids a place to go and a path to grow. One of our newest programs is the High School Impact Center. For our kids in grades 9 through 12, Will helps run the Impact Center. Let's take a look.
What we do here is when the students come in, engage their interests, try to see what they're good at and what they're not good at, and help them explore some career options, help them explore what their gifts are and their talents through different programs that we do here. We have a culinary kitchen, so we have a cafe area that has a culinary kitchen that we cook at least 2 or 3 times a week with the youth. We also have a creative arts lab. The creative arts lab is where we do lots of painting and different creative things that they just want to kind of explore. We do a lot of sewing and things of that sort. With our tech lab, we teach them Microsoft suites. We do robotics, we do STEM, and a lot of gaming type things as well. With our build lab is where we kind of really get our hands on. We have a program that we started this summer, which is called Impact Cycling, where we got a lot of bikes donated from the community. We bring the bikes in, we assess them, and help rebuild them. Then we have our sound studio. Our sound studio is where we do mixed beats, and they can sing, they can record, they can rap. And right now with this pandemic, it gives them a sense of belonging.
That's great news. Our reporter Christian has talked to 2 of the kids participating in the program.
Thanks, Michaela. I had the chance to get an interview with Julie and Michael. Here's what they had to say.
My favorite thing of coming here is waking up in the morning and knowing that I have somewhere to be.
Well, I really like it.
So if you all want to see there's a minute and a half-ish left on that video, but to make up time, we're gonna, I feel so bad for boys and girls. We love you, boys and girls. But if you all want to see the rest of that video, just let us know. We'll send it to you afterwards. The last video we want to show you here is the thank you video, and this went out via text message to those that were tuning in virtually. And this also was played at an event live for those that were in person as well, because the students couldn't physically be in the room, but they could be in the room digitally.
Thank you, MND, for your amazing teachers and amazing academics that I know will prepare me for college.
For the community service opportunities here at MND.
For the counselors to make my college decision easier. Thank you, Mount Notre Dame, for the opportunities you've given me.
For making me feel at home. For building my confidence.
For empowering me.
For the wonderful friends and community you've given me.
For all of the teachers.
Thank you, MND, for such an amazing community and family.
For giving me so many opportunities to grow in my faith
through retreats. For giving me such a nice community of girls who are always accepting and are always true to themselves, and they just love you no matter what.
Thank you, Mount Notre Dame, for friendships that will last a lifetime.
The opportunity for me to be on the M&D dance team.
For making me feel welcomed as a freshman.
For providing me with a great education and many friendships to last a lifetime.
For letting me be me.
Awesome. That give you some ideas there? Cool. All right. And so I think I glossed over on page 9. Number 1 is human stories of impact, which is all about video. And number 2 is common purpose, which is really all about grounding people in empathy. And common purpose and passive to active, which passive to active is number 3. We're going to move into sort of an amalgamation of both of those things together and what they really mean for us when we're looking at event strategies and how to engage people. And I want to share a quick story about an event that I was personally an attendee at 8 years ago. And it's for the Front Row Foundation. And this for me is really about 2 different things, the common purpose piece and passive to active. So when we think about passive to active, we think about things like maybe showing a video and then asking your audience to write a letter to the family, just words of endearment and encouragement, like what we did at the Front Row Foundation. And so this video was shown of Hannah. Hannah was 11 years old. She passed away. And I'm still getting emotional about it. It was 8 years ago. All Hannah wanted to do was to go and see Taylor Swift. And at 11 years old, you see this little girl who doesn't even know she's sick. And she's gonna die. And she says on the video, "I know I'm gonna die." And after the video plays, John Vroman and John Berghoff, who are dear friends of Tucker and mine, were facilitating this event. They said, "We're gonna just take a moment. Everyone's gonna write a letter to Hannah telling her that you love her." And we did. And I don't know what was more impactful, us writing the letters or the video we got a month later when Hannah read our letters. And they sent the video back to us, the donors that wrote the letters. And she's writing the letters and she goes, "Oh my God, is it real? Is it really happening?" Taylor Swift walks in her house to surprise her. And they get in a limo and they go to her concert. And I'll tell you, in that room, when we were writing those letters, we raised $15,000 for Hannah in 60 seconds. And she got to go see Taylor Swift, obviously, and have that experience, and then she passed away 2 weeks later. And so the spark of the soul is to serve others. This is why it matters. And if we can open hearts to feel like this, then we're inviting people to get called into that. So how can we do this at your events? How many small businesses are there in St. Louis? And I know many of us live outside of the St. Louis community, but how many small businesses are there in your community? Do you want to be swimming in a red ocean where we're all competing for that same money of the Emersons, the Express Scripts, the Purinas, these large organizations? Or do you want to go to the 539,000 small businesses that are in this community right here to build that strategic partnership with and that alliance? So it's just something to consider. There's a red ocean of all these sharks, if you will, swimming in this one particular area, but there's a big, beautiful, untapped blue ocean out there of potential just waiting for you. Table captains and the experience at your event. Many of you have heard of table captains before, yeah? That's something that we're utilizing at our events. So we like to reframe that a little bit and think about personal concierge members. And so maybe for one of your top ticket packages, that includes picking up your favorite donor in a limo. Waiting inside in that limo are champagne bottles, a couple glasses. They pick up their entire party in the limo. They show up to your event greeted with a red carpet experience, and your table captain or personal concierge member is there to greet them at the door, shakes their hand and says, "Oh my God, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're so excited to see you today. This is awesome. By the way, you've brought some new friends with you. Who are your friends? I noticed that you haven't come before. let me walk you over here to this TV and show you a 60-second video on why Mr. and Mrs. Smith have decided to come, and this is their 4th year coming. There's a reason why they continue to come back. Let me show you. After they see the video, table captain or personal concierge member walks them over to their table, perhaps introduces them to other individuals at your event, so there's not that social awkward, like we're sitting with a bunch of people we don't know. And the concierge member says, I have 3 goals for tonight's event. Number 1, I want to make sure you have a great time. Number 2, I want to make sure you know and understand why we're here and why we do what we do. And number 3, I want to invite you to participate with us, volunteer or support us, or come back and help us in some way. And last but not least, maybe that concierge member is also saying, hey, by the way, I've had some really interesting one-off conversations. They go up to those individuals and they say, you're a person that our executive director would like to spend some more time with. Can our executive director reach out to you? We know you go to a lot of these fundraisers, but we want this to be the best one you've ever been to, and we can only make that happen with your feedback. Can we call you on Monday? Jarrell, I know you jump all over that. And so that table captain is sort of soliciting for you and getting an idea and a pulse in the room. So as an executive director and a fundraiser, you're spending time with people that are going to say yes to you, as opposed to wasting your time with those that are going to say no. Imagine this is your live auction at your hybrid event. A number of you asked about how do we bring the technology in the room so that our people online don't fall asleep during our event because they have Zoom fatigue. It's all about passive to active, making your audience have a pulse again. And this is how we do it during a live auction. Cue it, my friend. Debbie, you told me we have this package is at $1,000 is where we're starting out? 4,000. 4,000.
4,000. 4,000 down 5. 5,000 in the back. You're out. Get 6,000.
And I think we have.
Hey, 7,000.
Debbie, we
7,000.
7,000 online. Hey, we got 7,000 online. Look at that, unbelievable.
You need to be an 8.
And so as your audience is giving you survey feedback, you're showing your audience, oh my God, everyone's having fun. One person's not.
It's all right.
That one person. What can we do to make that one person have a good time? It's probably Jarrell. And so questions that you might want to consider asking on this are you having fun? Can our executive director or our fundraisers reach out to you on Monday for your feedback on tonight's event? Everybody's voice wants to be heard. 3 people don't want to be heard. And that's fine, because that's actually better to get the no's, right, Gina? You always say when people unsubscribe or opt out, then you're spending time with people that genuinely care about you. Yep, creating a space for those who want to be there. Thank you, Gina. Can our executive director of development reach out to you next week? Awesome. And then a third question you might want to consider asking on there is, do you want to come to any volunteering opportunities with your family? We have a volunteering day. We're offering them an opportunity to continue to be involved before they leave. Before they leave, when you have their attention, you've got a yes from them that says, yeah, we want to bring our families out to a volunteer day in a month. That sounds great. Contact us then. And then like Gina said earlier, asking them thoughtfully, what's the best way to contact you? Text message, phone call, email. You want me to show up at your door? I'll be at your door. But ways that you might want to create a really impactful experience if you are doing a hybrid event and offering a streaming component is this example, and it's a very quick story for what we did for an organization down in Atlanta. So we produced an event for this group, and I want you to imagine their context is that their recipients are in Nepal. Cost prohibitive to bring those recipients into the room the night of the event, but we brought them in via iPads and digitally. And so we had iPads, and imagine iPads at the table where your donors can connect with those recipients in real time. And then imagine breakout rooms like what Zoom, our friends on the Zoomies today have been experiencing, where they get in small communities of people with a recipient, and they can actually get a translator, and they can actually communicate with the recipients and say, what's your family life like? How is this organization helping you? Why does this matter? And they actually feel a part of that, the impact that they're going to contribute that night at the event. We then went into the paddle raise. We played a video. The paddle raise raised $400,000 that night for that organization. which was 60% higher than they did the previous year.
The one that he
Love
was
you.
talking about was sharing, as I mentioned earlier. That's one of the 4 S's. Sharing is creating more active experiences. Joey shared an example of the letter. We've been having an active experience today where you're interacting with each other. That actually helps build a sense of community, of sharing. And then the last S is stewardship. And by the way, most of us who, of course, have been in the fundraising world, stewardship is something that we think about in terms of stewarding the donor. But what we're talking about in terms of the 4 S's of community around stewardship is actually creating spaces where you have, who are some of your super participants, if you will, your super donors. In fact, one of the videos that we were going to share you, but we ran a little bit out of time, is one of the reasons that we've definitely seen in terms of the data is that one of the reasons why other people donate to nonprofits is because their friends also donate, is because they have a like-minded person who is in their space that gives to that nonprofit too. That's somebody like them. Nobody likes to be first, by the way. And so if you think about it, what are some tactics that you can do that build a community of donors and that allow for the donors to invite others, because you're letting the donors invite people into their impact too. So it's not just you as a fundraiser, it's actually creating your donors as your primary fundraisers to invite more people in.
So on Monday morning, when I'm making all of these donor phone calls, I have a script ready to go because I know exactly how many people were in the room. I know how much money we raised during the paddle raise portion of the evening. So I took all that down, so it's ready to go. So my Sunday activity was building out the script. So it doesn't matter if the donor picks up the phone, because I have a voicemail script that's ready to go. So making sure that I build that voicemail script out as well, where in 30 seconds, 40 seconds, I can communicate the 2 to 3 most important takeaways from my event. So it helps build my communication strategy. Yeah, so one of the things that I always think about is how can we build relationships, to Millicent's point earlier about the importance of relationship building through our events. So now, as soon as the event's over, I'm thinking about how I can grow that relationship and make it even stronger. So let's say that, Tucker, you were at one of my events, and we had a brief conversation about a program, a very specific detail about that program. I would follow up with you. And on Monday, on that phone call on Monday, I'll have more to say about that event. And then maybe that's a good lead for me to know, what is your motivation to give to us? So I've utilized that a lot in events where I have conversations with folks, donors, and we basically throw out a lot of, almost a menu of things that folks might be interested in supporting at your organization. So, not everybody's going to be interested in one sole program. That's why you give them a menu of things, and they indicate their interest through conversation. So our job as a fundraiser is to pull that out of them as we follow up with them. So for me, it's a way that I can build stronger relationships, because instead of just this very surface level relationship, now it gets deeper because I know what their motivations are. I know what they're interested in with our organization. So it's been nothing but valuable for me to have these types of phone calls and conversations with people post-event. Just follow up. Hey, great to see you. Here's something very specific from our interaction. Makes them feel special. I think someone mentioned earlier giving folks the opportunity to identify how they'd like to be engaged in the future. So if you know someone's an email donor, just email them. Don't pick up the phone and call if they've indicated they don't really want phone calls. So again, it's making someone feel known and seen if you have their preferences. But I also like to reserve the phone time for the most important. Well, every donor is important, but there are some folks that you really need to get to after events. And sometimes they're not the most They're not the donors at the top of your donor list. They're not the most generous people, but they are folks that I have identified as maybe a community champion. Folks in the community that know people, that can connect you to other people. So to your question earlier about how do we get to know people and introduce people to your organization, look for those community champions, and they are going to be a very important part of your follow-up strategy as well.
Okay.
How can I get their attention? Because our donors give to 1 million organizations. They get used to very similar follow-up. They get the same thank you letter, they get a tax letter, they get an event email with links to the pictures. So how can I switch things up? So I think about it in a very salesy sense, a pattern interrupt. So how can I change the way that I reach out and communicate with them post-strategy that's different from every other nonprofit? So sometimes it's looked very creative. If I know the donor is into it, I've mailed people things. I've mailed people wacky things, but it's all creative. So thinking about how I can show.
You love the digital reactions.
Yes. How can I differentiate myself but still share what we did?
But things that we're gonna do for the post-event strategy for this event is you're gonna receive an email from us, you'll receive maybe a few personal videos, and I think expanding out on what this is, is really leaning into your survey feedback and what you've told us, and then we're gonna craft experiences in the future around what you've shared with us that matter to you. I think, bringing on a couple of people in this room as consultants. Maybe we bring Jarell on full-time to our team. Who knows? We might go and hire Millicent as well and bring Tucker on and, Debbie. But, we're very mindful of that approach and what you share with us so we can craft experiences that make good use of your time. And then I'd say number 3 is all the cameras in here are recording. Right, so we're gonna do short form content, being mindful of those of you that said that you didn't wanna have, your faces out there. We totally get that. And so we're gonna be mindful of breaking this content up and putting it in short form content on a blog post on our website with little snippets and nuggets of video, with bullet points of what we did today. So hopefully we can attract new nonprofits like the Bonnies. For us, that's new nonprofits that are searching for companies like us that hopefully come across this and sign up for one of our workshops in the future. So just some thoughts on using content to position yourself in attractive ways.
So you're talking about something that would be a personal connection between you and that donor. So can you give us an example of what you've done in the past?
I definitely can.
Did you mail a cooler?
Very close. I mailed a shoe to someone. So I had a first-time attendee that came to one of my events in the past, and it was someone that I had struggled for years to actually get in front of, and I did some relationship mapping before the event and figured out a strategy to get this person to the event. So he shows up at the event. I give him a little bit of time. He can get his cocktail or maybe a second cocktail, and then that's when I made the beeline over to him and just said, hey, I have been trying to get a foot in the door with your organization for the longest time, blah, blah. We had a good laugh about it, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of difficult to break in here. They're pretty dead set in their ways and organizations that they funded. And we had a good laugh about that. So I actually mailed this guy a shoe the next week and just said, hey, now that we have a foot in the door, let's build that relationship from here.
Oh my God, yes.
So,
yes.
And we closed the gift. So we closed the gift with them for the first time ever and built a relationship.
Yeah, Jarell.
So
that's awesome. That is awesome.
So it's all about thinking about how can I be unique and make ourselves look different from everybody else that's out there, because when you look at the 10 largest employers in St. Louis, everybody is going to them. So let's think about not just those folks, but other prospects, but then with those folks and other folks, how can we make ourselves look different and stand out? I'm thinking about how can I incorporate and build that relationship with folks over a 12-month period, and how can I have as many touches as possible, meaningful touches that aren't just asking for money outside of an event. So being very intentional and thoughtful about how I communicate with those folks throughout the entire year and not just post-event follow-up.
Some of the event strategies, we're going to give you some space to reflect because we actually don't learn from our experiences. We actually learn way more by reflecting on our experiences. We just had an experience here today, and you learned some serious wisdom across this entire spectrum. So use this as a space for just a moment.
We're really inspired by Jarrell, and this is timely because we actually have a golf classic tomorrow, which is why we're a little distracted. But we're talking, and the part that we kind of get tripped up on sometimes or overlook is the post-event experience. So we're going to be really thoughtful and purposeful when we go back and kind of like segment out those donors and think about who needs more of a personal touch and who can be that person that just gets more of the email blast, and kind of do some more special touches after that event. So thank you, Jarrell, for that inspiration.
Well, mine's almost exactly the same as yours, but our event's in 3 weeks, and our database is, we're still working on it and building it. So segmenting the donors is something I want to go back and do. Plan for the week after a little bit more, and then begin. We have a 50th anniversary event next September, and I want to co-create with my steering committee that event and work on that for next year.
Love all of you.
There we go. Some sound effects. That was for me.